Welcome to the Currently Cringing podcast. I'm your host, Anisha Ramakrishna. I'm a TV personality and entrepreneur. Join me as I spill the chai on my cringeworthy life experiences with a side of dating, pop culture, and lots of laughs. Hey guys, welcome to Currently Cringing. Hey Ditz.
Oh God, I'm scared to be back.
I know, I don't know if we have listeners left after Manlash.
After a different point of view where there was some hard-hitting statistics and data that we gave.
I mean, it was all facts. Men are not treated equally as women when it comes to emotional abuse.
That's right. And I think it's not about who's right and who's wrong, but that there's two sides to every story, which we're going to cover later. I wanted to dive into some statistics. We had talked about some before with filters. I saw an Instagram clip today that was saying that by the age of 30, if you haven't had a kid as a female, um, that there's a 50% chance you'll never have one. And when people are polled, especially women, at what age do you think that 50% mark is? The majority think it's close to 40. What do you think about
So
that?
there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect. And I think this is not anyone's fault. I just think that people need to realize that the age thing does matter. And that's just another factor when it comes to dating. And people need to change what they're looking for. And just know that guys probably know this more than girls do. And that might affect who they're swiping on. So the same way that you ladies are swiping on the 6'0" guy, 6'1" guy, that is happening with the age thing as well. And there's actual numbers and data.
I'm a victim of age shaming. A lot of guys didn't want to date me because of my age. And it's rare. Of course, you can manifest and whatever, but sometimes you have to align with reality, which is what I did with my husband, right? It's rare to find someone like my husband or like you where you're not really thinking about age. You do want to be with someone that can have a child, but
Right.
someone's a couple of years older, it's not a big deal. But there are a lot of guys out there, they won't say it out loud, but I was in these streets and they would tell me, that they're looking for someone younger. At least they were honest with me, but it's a reality that we don't want to face as women, but I'm a victim of it. Just last week at my Portland show, I made a joke about, I don't know if I want kids yet. However, I did freeze the kids. The kids are in the freezer. And someone in the audience said, well, not at 38. Now, did I take offense to it? No, because I know we have woke culture and there's cancel culture and everyone's hypersensitive, in my opinion, right now. That's the reality.
Meanwhile, my sister and NKP's sister freezing their Rolls Royce eggs at 28 and 29, you know.
And I wish someone told me to do that at that age, but a lot of us didn't even know that was an option.
I think it's not even a generational thing. It's like a half, like, because we're or at least you and me are like older geriatric millennials, whereas our sisters or even younger than them, they're like that baby, almost baby millennial, where they had access and knowledge to that.
And having the upbringing that we all did, we talked about having these expectations because we were raised to have the white picket fence. You're not thinking that you're going to be 37, 38, 39, 40 single.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, I always wanted someone a few years younger than me, and I was looking at the under 30, then it became 30 to 35. I actually now, like, I date like 35 to 37 because I'm looking for someone more mature who's looking to settle down pretty quickly. So, but without the weird TMTS, but the dating with like a purpose. Like, someone who wants to settle down and have kids in a reasonable timeline because all my friends are having kids. So I don't want one tomorrow, but like a couple of years from now, yeah.
And speaking of filters, you started with the filters just this morning in our group chat. I'm introducing eligible men to our friend group, and one's like, oh, is he 6 foot? Oh, is a man bun good? What I know is that you're over 40.
Well, the best is that she came up with a list of things that we agreed. We're like, okay, these are 5 good things, 5 qualities to look for in a man. And then 3 hours later, we're talking about man buns and all these other stupid, superficial things. Who cares?
Who cares? Is he a nice person? Can he provide for your child? Can he be a good father? Ladies,
Will he will he be a supportive partner? Will he cheat? Like these are things that matter, not what is his hairstyle.
and I think a lot of our content with regard to man lash and giving birth and all of that, it's for the millennial, older millennial.
Hmm.
We're talking about a segment of the population. If you're 28, yeah, maybe you don't want to date a guy with a man bun.
Agreed. The problem is not the girls of a certain age. It's because we're all kind of living in the past of like what our expectations and preferences were in our 20s versus in our mid to late 30s. It needs to change. The same way that you had a different ideal of what a Friday and Saturday night was when you were 22 versus 28 versus 36, right? Like I had very different expectations of weekends. Now, what's fun for me now is not what was fun for me before. That should reflect in your dating as well.
The listeners are more than welcome to DM us, come at us, send emails to us. We love it. We're just glad you guys are listening and we want to have a safe space to have open, honest conversation. I do think that these opinions, they're not our opinions. I wish I could tell you to wait for your dream man and have a child at 50 because Janet Jackson had a child at 50. Not all of us are Janet Jackson. And the reality of that actually happening in 2023, the technology isn't there yet. And for you, you don't age shame, you don't care. We're just talking about the chatter, what men are actually doing, what women are actually doing.
This is a reality check. We're not like trying to. I mean, anyone can do whatever they want, but we're just spitting the truth. The truth hurts. We say it all the time. Like we scream at each other because we care about each other.
I also think a lot of people wouldn't understand our group chat and how we talk to each other because there's some harsh conversations there.
I mean, the first time we talked to each other, you told me to lose weight, and I said you were old, and then we became
Exactly.
friends.
But at least you know the other person has your best interest. It's like my mom always says, you know, most of your friends are just going to tell you what you want to hear. Your family will tell you what you need to hear.
That's right. Yep.
But speaking of man lash now, what's going on with Jonah Hill, who, by the way, fun fact, our very dear female friend who is in this group chat, who was actually complaining about the man bun, who is over 40, dated Jonah Hill in their 20s and didn't or continue to date him because he was overweight.
I mean, this is what I was saying before, right? Like, guys overweight, like, that's a type of man lash. And I think that women are allowed to say that about men again, but if a man says that about a woman, everyone comes at it, right? So that's just one example. But Jonah Hill is very near and dear to my heart because my favorite comedy of all time is Superbad. And I kind of grew up with that. I grew up with Jonah Hill. I remember the first time I saw him was he had a little cameo in 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I'm like, this guy's gonna be funny. And I just like he's such a big part of my childhood, my high school, college, all of that. And then to see him in the news like this, it's tough. And I always like to get all the details before I make a decision on who's good and who's bad.
So basically, and I want to say for me too, Jonah Hill is iconic and he meant something for men and women, I think. He was so relatable to both of us.
He's like kind of, I've always been a little overweight. Like, oh, he's the overweight guy that's like kind of funny, and like some girls are kind of into him. Like, I could be like the Indian Jonah Hill.
The good version of him.
Sorry, yeah, we're talking old school.
I would date Jonah Hill in Superbad. So basically, Jonah Hill's ex-girlfriend, Sarah Brady, has accused him of being emotionally abusive during their relationship. And she's now posted a bunch of screenshots on her Instagram story that allegedly show Hill trying to control her behavior and dictate who she can be friends with, what she can post, what she should wear. For example, he said, you're putting things out there that aren't what I want to present by posting pictures of yourself in a bathing suit. He also has said to have put her down a lot, would call her names, call her worthless. It sounds toxic, but my issue with this whole thing, and me and you talked about this in our chat, anyone can look psychotic in a text when you're fighting with your significant other. And I can tell you, if you or Anand, my husband, or my family, if any one of them posts texts from me when I'm pissed, I'd get canceled. A lot of things would happen that are not good.
Well, there's a few other aspects to this. I think, first of all, it is so low class and trashy to share private texts between you and a lover, especially long after the relationship, when that person has moved on to a new relationship and had a child with that person. That is so inappropriate, and it almost negates everything that happened in those text messages. That's my so I'm not even, let's say I haven't even read the text messages. I think it's so messed up that she even released that. That's the first thing before we even dig into the content.
I think it's definitely trashy to be posting screenshots of text messages. Right there, you violated someone's trust and privacy. And the fact that you did this a year after you broke up with him and he's with someone else and just had a child, that's what makes it all suspicious.
And the next thing I would say is reverse the genders. What if he had done the same thing? If he had been like, oh, she was manipulative, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's giving birth to some child from another guy, everyone will be coming after him. That's my problem, is that if the roles were reversed, Jonah's still the bad guy. I'm like 99% sure on this.
Well, the frightening thing, because I have no position in this, because unless I was there, I can't make any judgment, because I know my behavior when I've been mad in relationships with friends, with family, with significant others, and I don't want any of those texts out there, just saying. So I can't make an informed judgment. Society would like you to just take the woman's side. He didn't release text from her, so we don't know what's going on. But we have been reading that a lot of this had to do with her outfits, and she was posting photos in bikinis, I guess like thirst trapping. I just posted one last week. And I think he's saying that this was a boundary. I think this is probably what got him into trouble, in the same way that our friend was dating someone cheap, and you hit the nail on the head. This wasn't anything wrong. This was just incompatibility. They weren't compatible.
Right. I also just feel like, yeah, so again, I'm not saying that she's the only person wrong. In terms of the content, he knew what he was signing up for, right? She is a surfing instructor. So she's going to have photos of her in a bikini. So I do think it's a little ridiculous. So I don't even think he's manipulative. I just think he's an idiot in this case, based on what I've seen. With that said, maybe we were only seeing part of it because we don't know. Maybe there was some prior infidelity. Like, maybe that's the reason why. Again, I'm not even saying for sure. Maybe that's the reason why he was saying not to throw thirst traps, or like, maybe there's specific guys that have been sliding into her DM. We don't know the full story.
There's a show, which I'm sure we've all heard of, Zoe 101. And the star from that show, Alexa Nicholas, says that apparently he kissed her without consent when she was 16 and offered her a cigarette. The case isn't getting better for him. It's just now people coming out of the woodwork. So again, to me, this just sounds like a man who has power that maybe takes advantage of the situation here and there. Very common. I see it all the time with men and women. people, let's say people, not men and women, people who have power in a lot of cases tend to take advantage of people who have less power. And maybe you're in Hollywood, you think you're hot shit, and you kissed a 16-year-old. I don't know how old he was, but
Yeah, listen, how old was he when this happened?
but she's claiming he shoved his tongue down her throat.
Yeah, I don't even know. That's news to me for sure. It makes me feel sad. I think this is a case where they're both kind of in the wrong. It seems like he made some bad choices. She made weird choices. I wouldn't even say bad. To publicly air dirty laundry is never something I've done. Maybe you can allude to some stuff, but especially when you're in Hollywood, to like leak things to the paparazzi and the press, it's just like ridiculous.
And he's 39 now. So I know we've all done things that we regret or that we didn't know were wrong. Times have changed. Like you said, you don't even want to ask out a girl for fear of being called a creep or being told that you're a harasser.
Yeah. Or it's like you want to have like an NDA, like a relationship NDA signed by both parties, like no a non-disparagement, not telling people like, oh, this is what he's like emotionally, sexually, all these things. Like, all right, just like this is between us. That's it.
For me, I look at this story and I see a lot of people that probably dated him for his money and then he didn't. And he's definitely wrong.
Mhm.
But the moral of the story, what I got from this is don't rely on a man. Secure your own bag.
I agree. That's a good takeaway.
Because a lot of this, I was reading into it, it was like she wanted him to support her business and a lot of other things like that. And he didn't. So get your own money.
Well, it seems like she had a business that was thriving, or she was, doing some good things in the surf world. I'm not sure. I do think that they had one big issue. They sucked at communicating. It seems that there should have been, I don't want to say there were boundaries, because that's triggering, obviously, but there should have been like an outline before the relationship started of this is what I expect in a relationship. And some people have the whole ENM thing where it's like you can hook up with other people, blah, blah, blah. It should have been like I like, you know, you to not post these photos or whatever. And that should be defined before anything even starts, you know?
And I'm treading lightly because we've seen how society just picks who to cancel based
Mhm.
off of convenience. Like Chris Brown is still out there singing songs after bashing up Rihanna, Black and Blue. That's still terrifying. Brad Pitt has beat his adopted son on a plane and he's thriving out there.
I feel like Louis C.K. got canceled, Aziz got canceled and
Yeah, but they're
uncanceled.
all they're all thriving, hun. They're all thriving.
Yeah.
So I'm treading lightly what I'm saying because I don't know these people. I'm just giving an example of what could happen behind closed doors, but we don't know the full story. Anyone could screenshot anything right now from me or from you, and it could be taken out of context. We don't know.
That's the issue. That my takeaways here are: one, you don't know the whole story. Two, things in a relationship should remain private. And three is that the automatic assumption that the guy is in the wrong needs to probably be reevaluated, right? Especially when I gave the example of if you flip the genders, Jonah Hill's still in the wrong, right? So society would see him as still in the wrong. So that's kind of all I have to say on that particular instance.
Newsweek did a poll, and 33% say they approve of her releasing the text messages. But again, I don't know how many of those people want their text messages released. It's easy to take a poll on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. But isn't it true that like a poll of basically 50% of people said that he was manipulative, but that means that 50% think that he wasn't. So everyone seems split.
I'm split.
Yeah. So if we're 50-50, why are we canceling someone?
Exactly.
Like, it's crazy.
But they posted a photo of him this week, and the guy's a bag of bones. So
Well, that's my biggest issue with Jonah Hill is that he's on Ozempic and he looks weird. He looks weird skinny. Like that guy, like he's one of those people that looked better when he was fat.
he's definitely one of those people where weight loss did not do anything good for him.
Or that guy needs to get in the gym and start lifting weights, maybe put a little bit of muscle on.
Well, speaking of weight, our
Here we go.
next topic is Lizzo.
What a segue that was.
Yeah. Well, Lizzo's all about, body positivity and
That's right.
loving yourself. And I agree with all those things. But again, I'm a little turned off by the latest reports as a fan, as a viewer, as someone who follows her content. It's pretty shocking. She's making headlines and they're saying that, she's being sued by two of her former backup dancers for sexual harassment and a hostile work environment. That's so left field for me because I follow her on TikTok and she's like making vegan food. It's
Are these
bizarre.
backup dancers male or female?
They're all women.
Wow. So this is a woman on woman crime. What do you do?
There's no man lash. They're also saying that they complained to her management and management did nothing. Of course, Lizzo has denied the allegations, calling them completely false. But the details are a little disturbing. And what's more troublesome is now a podcast is circulating of Lizzo talking about how she wants to go to Amsterdam and try this sex act where you eat a banana out of someone's coochie. Sounds disgusting.
That is horrifying.
Yeah, horrifying. And apparently the dancers are saying now that when they were all in Amsterdam, she forced them to do this. I don't know how you can force someone to eat a banana out of someone's cooch.
She forced them to put the banana in their cooch and have someone eat it out of it.
Oh, you think that's what it was?
Well, this makes more sense now that now that I know that they're female. This makes more sense the other way.
No, I
No,
thought they were forced to eat.
I don't think either is good.
I don't think either is good either. But what's really frightening is that she was talking about this on a pod, and now they're alleging that she made them do it.
Okay, so some of these people just have some real demons, I think, because we talked about a bunch of other stuff about how rich people on another pod will do crazy stuff because they're bored. It's kind of like these celebrities and rich people, like they're not like us normal citizens. I don't know. Like none of us want to do this.
And again, people with power, maybe, you forget where you came from for a minute and then you start acting like you're the shit and telling people what to do who don't have as much power as you. What's really concerning with Lizzo, just like Jonah, Lizzo has been accused of sexual harassment in 2018 by a male fan who said she was groping him at a concert. Again, she's denied the allegations. So I guess here now we've talked about Jonah. Now we're talking about Lizzo, a male and a female. Two very different outcomes. I feel like no one's really talking about Lizzo. They're kind of like ignoring it. And the latest news is Lizzo is upset that none of the other celebrities are supporting her or backing her up, which don't expect anything from anyone in life.
When the incident with the male fan happened, what was the reaction? Because I feel like I completely missed this.
I didn't even hear about it. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so there was no reaction. And obviously, if it was the reverse, then we'd be hearing about it like crazy. So I don't know. Maybe that's a mini man lash. I'm not really sure.
I don't know. What do you think? What are your final thoughts?
Celebrities are complicated people, and if you're gonna eat a banana out of someone's coochie, make sure you have consent.
Maybe they didn't want to lose their jobs. There's so many factors.
Well, maybe you should be not. You shouldn't be discussing these things with someone in your employ. Let's put it that way, or your subordinates. Maybe that's something you can talk about with your friends or lovers about eating eating fruit out of private parts.
I always say the point of differentiation before you say something or do something at work or in a professional place or with coworkers or a supervisor or whoever, would this fly in the White House?
That's actually, I'm not sure if that's the right example because there's
Well,
some
that's
weird.
true. Yeah, people have been like,
That's a bad example of some weird stuff that's happened in the White House. We had cocaine in the White House.
so
We
how do
had
we change that? What is
in,
the
I would
benchmark?
say in a corporate boardroom and just like a
I guess
law
there's
firm.
no place, no place is safe.
No, I think it's like what would HR at investment bank or a law firm or a consulting firm say about this?
You
The White
realize
House,
all that shit's happening there too.
we're everything's happening in the White House. People are doing lines of coke somewhere, and there's like a stained dress somewhere. We've seen it all in the White House.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.
Thank you so much for sipping the chai with me this week. If you like the show, remember to rate, review, and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram at Anish Ramakrishna. I would love to hear from you. Join me next week for more chai.